Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Namaste and welcome back to the video course on watershed management. In module number 9 on drought and management, lecture number 37, today we will discuss about drought mitigation. So, some of the important topics covered in today's lecture include drought mitigation and management, drought warning and monitoring, mitigation and planning. So, keywords for today's lecture: drought mitigation, management and planning. So, as we were discussing earlier, so drought is a major issue in many parts of the world, and especially in watershed management. If you manage the watershed area with respect to water, land, vegetation, we can reduce the effects of drought. So, related to the drought, in the last two lectures we were discussing about the various aspects of droughts, then how to analyze the droughts, and then various related issues, consequences, all those things we were discussing in the last lecture. So, in today's lecture we will be discussing mainly on the drought mitigation aspects. So, once say if we cannot stop the drought, but we can do many things to prevent the effects of drought, or we can reduce the effects of droughts. So, in that sense, say mitigating drought means taking actions in advance of drought to reduce its long term risk. So, we are doing many things which will reduce the effects of the drought. So, this involve a wide range of tools, policies, activities, plans and programs. So, on a government level, central government or state governments or various district level, say we can have many plans, policies, activities and programs, so that the drought mitigation is effectively can be implemented, or the effects of droughts can be reduced to certain extent. So, that way when we look into drought mitigation, the important components of a drought mitigation plan include, so prediction. So, we have to predict, say whether there is any possibility of drought, say for this particular year or few months ahead, we have to predict. Then we have to monitor. So, we have to monitor the area, say on a watershed basis or a district basis or the area basis. We have to monitor the various the hydrological parameters and the water level in the reservoirs, then the agricultural aspects, all those things we have to monitor, and then see how the drought will, say whether it will be severe drought or moderate drought, like that. Then we have to study the impact. So, we have to do an impact assessment. So, that way we have to see that the say with respect to the severity of the drought, so what will be happening, whether there will be the agriculture crops say will be destroyed or not, whether the sufficient water will be available to the people or not. So, this kinds of impact assessments we have to do when we discuss about the drought mitigation. And then in that sense, say we can have by using now the modern tools like remote sensing, GIS, then hydrological modeling, then climatological modeling, etc. We can have now early warning systems. So, in many countries like United States, then say they have developed early warning system, drought warning system. So, that from that we can predict whether there is any possibility of droughts, and then accordingly we can go for mitigation plans. Then we have to come up with action plans to deal with the severity. So, once the drought come to the area, so say depending upon its severity, whether it is say mild, moderate or severe, so what kind of action plans. So, say since we have to help the community, we have to help the people, say there may be famine may be there may be water shortage may be there are so many issues will be there. So, how we can help the community, how we can do various things so that the severity will be reduced. So, that is the next step, action plans to deal with the severity. Then comes the relief and responses. So, relief and responses means once the drought has already set on the area or that particular area, then say the people or the system needs say various relief measures, say like there may be shortage of food, there may be shortage of water. So, then the crop may got destroyed. So, various issues will be there. So, the as a especially the government machinery, either the federal system or the state governments or the district administration. So, they have to give relief to the people through various means in terms of food products or monetary wise or whatever way it is possible. So, that way most of the time the system needs immediate responses and reliefs. So, that way the important components of a drought mitigation plans include prediction, monitoring, impact assessment, early warning systems, action plans to deal with the severity, and relief and responses. So, now within this context let us look into say what kind of action plans are possible or as far as mitigation is concerned. So, mitigation plans and programs and policies are implemented say during and before droughts to reduce the magnitude of risk to human life, property and productive capacity. So, that way we can see that say once say a drought warning system predicts there is a possibility of drought. So, say before the drought started we can do many measures. So, that say like related to agricultural management or water management or the ecological management, we can do many things. And then during the drought say also the system, the government machinery or the disaster management say bodies, they can do many things so that to reduce the magnitude of risk to human life, property and then the flora and fauna of that particular area. So, now say nowadays say instead of now just giving relief to the people, now we are looking for mitigation measures in advance. So, that now the shift is the public policy. So, we have to frame the policy in such a way that the drought relief to say instead of say earlier times if we are giving, so once the drought is set we are giving reliefs during the drought situation, but now we are looking for mitigation measures, I mean say before the drought set in or say during the drought, say various mitigation measures. So, that way it is important for adapting say, so that say now say we are all hearing about the climate change effects. So, we have to see whether say the effect of climate say the climate change effects will be having say the problems like drought kind situations. So, it is important for adapting to climate change, then restoring ecological balances and bringing development benefits to the people. So, that way we have to put the mitigation plans as far as the drought management is concerned. So, now let us look say as far as drought mitigations are concerned, say what are the important strategies possible. So, let us look to various issues related to the drought mitigation strategies. So, like there can be alternative cropping strategies, say if a particular area is always vulnerable to drought, then say instead of high water intense crops we can go for low water intense crops. So, like that alternative cropping strategies we can go. Soil and water conservation we can do say soil conservation, so that sufficient moisture will be maintained in the soil. Then water conservation and water harvesting, so reduction of usage of water, and then say various measures like water harvesting, promotion of water harvesting techniques. So, these are all examples for say as far as the mitigation strategy is concerned, and then we can go for emergency drought relief plans. So, in all this when we talk about the drought mitigation strategies, the main objectives generally are to combat drought, say to develop a national strategy for drought preparedness in both the short and long term, aimed at reducing the vulnerability of production systems to drought. So, drought is concerned, there can be a short term effect and long term effect. So, we have to come up with say when we are developing a drought mitigation strategy, we have to come up with a strategy or we have to come up with a preparedness in both the long term and short term strategies to reduce the vulnerability, say as far as crop product, say reduction crop or the say availability of water, all those issues are concerned. Then second one, to strengthen the flow of early warning information to decision makers and land users to enable the nations to implement strategies for drought interventions. So, if we can come up with the early warning systems, say in few months in advance, so then the decision makers or the policy makers, they can say they can come up with certain decisions that will be very useful, say in terms of say availability of food, water or any other measures are concerned. And then also say the owners of the land, say especially say wherever agricultural, say they can do go for appropriate interventions such that the crops can be saved. So, that way the land users, say if they can get appropriate warning systems, they can strengthen the drought related issues. Then third issues is to develop and integrate drought relief schemes and means of coping with environmental refuges into national and regional development plan. So, when we are going for development plans, either national basis or a regional basis. So, if some areas are especially drought prone and then if there is a possibility, say we can give advance warning that there is a possibility of droughts, then we can look into, say we can integrate the drought relief schemes within the existing schemes, so that say we can deal with the drought very effectively. So, that way say when we look into drought mitigation strategies, we have to look all these aspects in a comprehensive way and then come up with appropriate strategies suitable for that particular area, say depending upon the various say parameters like geographical or meteorological and say agriculture related parameters. So, now let us look, say when we look into drought mitigation, then what kind of commitments say we have to do to improve the system, say so we have to reduce the severity of the drought. So, in this slides we can say some of the important points are mentioned, like improve say land and water management. So, say as far as drought is concerned, mainly it is mainly say lack of available water. So, the water availability is reduced or there is no available water and then the land is affected. So, that way we have to improve the land and water management. So, that is one of the most important aspects. So, when we look into watershed management, so say it is always since watershed is a hydrologic unit, scientifically based hydrologic unit. So, it is always better to go for watershed based scheme. So, that will be more effective, as we were discussing in many of the earlier lectures. And then say another aspect is the soil management. So, in most of the drought prone area, the crops or the vegetation is not getting sufficient moisture. So, that way if we can do some soil management with respect to moisture availability, then say we can effectively deal with the drought. And then promote agricultural management and provide trainings. So, as I mentioned, say if you can shift to the crops which does not need much water. So, that way say agriculture water management can be effectively done, and that can be, say the farmers can be given appropriate training, so that they can go for more scientific based irrigation schemes or say crop rotation or the appropriate crop management. So, that way we can promote agricultural management and provide appropriate trainings. Then develop strategies for drought preparedness. So, we can in advance, as say drought mitigation plans, we can say develop appropriate strategies depending upon the various issues for that particular area, like the socio-cultural or the geographical or the meteorological say parameters. By considering these parameters, we can prepare the appropriate strategies for the drought preparedness. And then say in all the cases we need say wherever the area is drought affected, we need say large amount of financing. So that way how the central government or state governments or district administration can mobilize the finance, or we say some other time we have to help the farmers to deal such issues. So how to mobilize the finance, so that can be another commitment. Then say most of the time say we can see that the drought prone areas, say the deforestation has been taken place most of the area, or the vegetation cover will be much thin in those areas. So we can look whether the possibility of afforestation or reforestation depending upon the areas, say how we can improve the existing forest, or how we can reforest, or we can say put different types of plants which are suitable for that particular environment, and then go for reforestations. And then we have to also look into minimum necessities of the communities. So in a drought prone area, say mainly the people will be affected with lack of water, food, and other basic amenities. So we have to see when we are looking to drought mitigation, we have to see how we can provide these kinds of basic amenities. Then another issue is social issues, say related to the say due to us the for especially the agriculture sector, there will not be any jobs, or the crops would have already destroyed due to the drought effects. So that way people may say the laborers may be migrating from one location to another location. So these kinds of social issues also we have to see when we prepare appropriate drought mitigation commitment plans. So now say within this context, as we can see that drought monitoring and early warning is very important aspect to have appropriate drought mitigation plans. So that way drought monitoring and early warning system is very important. So most of the time drought is concerned, the onset of drought will be very slow process. So typically a slow onset phenomenon is generally as far as drought is concerned. So often possible to provide a early warning of an emerging drought, that is possible by considering various hydrological, meteorological and other parameters. Early warning allows for a shift from reactive to proactive hazard management as far as that particular area is concerned. So if you look into various countries, then drought monitoring techniques across the world, we can see that various countries use various norms as far as the drought monitoring or early warning is concerned. So for example, China consider standardized precipitation index, as we discussed in our earlier lecture. So they calculate the standardized precipitation index to monitor drought occurrence, whether there is any possibility of drought, or some particular area is amenable to droughts. Then if United States of America is concerned, say instead of choosing one particular say drought index, say they use multiple climate indices and indicators. So based upon various indicators, they have developed advanced level early warning or monitoring tools, so that by considering all these parameters or all these indices, but some of the indices which we have discussed in one of our earlier lecture also. So they use this or various indices to come up with say for early warning as far as drought is concerned. Then countries like Australia is concerned, say that tries to quantify in terms of precipitation percentiles. So that is what say they use as far as the early warning is concerned. And then African countries, as per the FAO, Food and Agriculture Organizations, and other United Nations say organizations, say they use a system called famine early warning systems, FEWS net. So this is has been developed under the umbrella of say United Nations development schemes and FAO. So this say since in Africa many countries are in many countries drought is a common phenomena. So that way this system has been found to be very effective. Then in Asian countries like Afghanistan, Pakistan and western parts of India, say we have got a early warning scheme called South Asia Drought Monitor Schemes. So this SADM, this is based on remote sensing data, drought related indices, some of the say indices like standard precipitation index, and then GIS. So, this also seems to be found to be very effective. And then say early warning systems like FEWS net is mainly focused on Africa, where majority of food security warning systems operate, but it also covers parts of Central Asia, Central America and the Caribbean. So, that way say based upon say the various available say drought indices, and then advanced tools like remote sensing, GIS, and then other hydrological modeling tools, say various warning systems have been developed and are in effective use in many countries. So, now coming back to again to drought mitigation and preparedness measures. So, as far as preparedness is concerned, say when we deal with drought mitigation, say which can be either structural measures or the non-structural measures. So, the structural measures or physical measures are actually we are say directly implementing in the field, say as a development of a structure or an engineering project. So, like appropriate crops, sand dams, engineering projects, etc. So, to deal with to prepare as far as drought concerned, so we can go for this kinds of structural or physical measures. Then non-structural measures actually say it is mainly to deal with the government policies, awareness, warnings, etc. So, that is we are not implementing directly in the field, but the policy or strategies will be developed and awareness will be developed between the communities, so that say this will be very effectively implemented. Then as far as mitigation and preparedness is concerned, say it is defined as pre-disaster activities that are undertaken within the context of disaster risk management and are based on sound risk analysis. So, when we are preparing the drought mitigation plans, strategies or the preparedness, we have to make it appropriate in an appropriate way, such a way that it should be based upon the risk assessment or risk analysis. Say for example, water scarcity during the dry season. So, we have to analyze what are the problems, and then say whether it is the lack of rain or whether it is the soil nature or the drainage systems or whatever it is. So, and accordingly we can identify solutions, like say for example, some region we can have say instead of surface water dams we can have groundwater dams. So, where we can have appropriate structure, say that will stop the easy flow of the groundwater, so that sufficient moisture will be there and say even groundwater will be available. So, that way we can go for say preparedness as far as the particular system is concerned. And then say most important steps in lessening the effects of drought through, as we discussed, are mainly the soil conservation and water conservation. So, soil is concerned say against say soil erosion, or say to keep the soil moisture as far as the drought is concerned. And then water conservation is considered say to reduce reduce the usage of water in an effective way, so that say with less water we can have better agricultural production. So, water conservation. And then by protecting soil, it is better able to absorb rainfall or precipitation, but it can also help farmers to use less water. So, if more soil moisture is available, then farmers have to use only less water. So, that way water conservation is also possible. And then it also creates less water pollution by the pesticides and fertilizers present in most farm runoff. So, that is another indirect benefit. So, through soil and water conservation, if we can reduce the usage of water, then the water pollution problems due to the usage of fertilizers, pesticides and others we can reduce. So, as far as water conservation is concerned, say we are looking for say reduction in usage of water. So, like public use is often regulated, so that the usage of water is reduced. Then water conservation devices like low flow toilets as far as domestic usage is concerned, shower heads and then washing machines. So, for that particular area, particular communities are concerned, water conservation is possible. And then wherever say the water is not say sufficient water is not available through rainfall, then if the sea water, if the sea is nearby or coastal regions, we can look into desalination of sea water, as many of the Gulf countries are doing. And then say another important aspect is like water recycling, so that we can say recycle the water and then reuse it for various purposes. So, actually the next module is on water recycling and reuse. So, there we will be discussing more aspects. And then rainwater harvesting. So, like that say depending upon the area, depending upon the various conditions, depending upon the geographical areas or the socio economical aspects, we can have various measures as far as the drought mitigation is concerned. So, that way now when we look into drought mitigation, so we have to see the how we can protect the ecological systems or the area from say the water stress or the as far as the total area is concerned, say whether we can say manage appropriate way. So, that way when we look into drought mitigation, we have to look into the protections like dams, say we can have many dams and their associated reservoirs supply additional water in times of drought. So, in drought prone area we can look the possibility of having more dams, so that we can store more water. Then we can also get rainfall artificially through cloud seeding. So, it is an artificial technique to induce rainfall. So, that way another option. Then desalination of seawater for irrigation or consumption, as we discussed. Then drought monitoring. So, we have to monitor continuously as far as the rainfall levels, and then comparison with the usage level, and then say whether there is say with overuse or with misuse, whether there is any possibility of man-made drought like that. So, for example, say in a Gulf country like Yemen, say say they are using groundwater for agriculture purposes. So, due to the overuse, it has been observed that the groundwater tables are going drastically down, say since due to overuse for the cart crop. So, that way say we have to do appropriate interventions, so that to protect the available groundwater resources and then effectively utilize it. Then we have to go for monitoring of moisture levels, like to help predict increased risk for wildfires using such metrics as Palmer drought index, what we discussed in the last lecture. So, that way we have to see the monitoring of moisture levels. Then another important aspect is the land use as far as the drought mitigation and protection is concerned. So, say as I mentioned earlier, say as far as agriculture is concerned, say instead of going for, so especially the drought prone area, instead of going for the high water intensive crops, so we can go for low water intensive crops, and then we can go for crop rotations, and then we can minimize the erosion and allow farmers to plant less water dependent crops in drier or the drought years. Then also we can go for outdoor water use restriction, like regulate use of sprinklers, hoses or buckets on outdoor plants, then filling pools and other water intensive home maintenance tasks. So, this way we can conserve the water. Then as we discussed, the rainwater harvesting is one of the most important aspects as far as the mitigation measures and protection is concerned. So, rainwater harvesting is collection and storage of rainwater from roofs or other suitable catchments, so that can be either directly utilized or we can recharge back to the aquifer systems. Then recycled water, say like wastewater or sewage, treated and purified for reuse, say either for domestic purposes or the gardening or the agriculture purposes. And then also we can look to the possibility of transvasement, like building canals or redirecting rivers as massive attempts at irrigation in drought prone areas. So, you can see that in a state like Gujarat, so we can see that with respect to this Narmada river canal system. So, now Gujarat state is taking the water from the Narmada river or its canal systems to the drought prone areas of Kutch and other areas. So, that through these kinds of by building canals and water transfer, so we can mitigate the drought, or we can reduce the effect of droughts in an effective way. So, then say as I mentioned, in drought prone areas, say if the rainfall is less, so then we can go for instead of and especially we can see that as a consequence of droughts or the most of the areas, the evaporation will be much more. So, that way if we store the water in surface reservoirs, then what happens, more water will be lost through evaporation. So, that way now we can even go for dams called groundwater dams. So, groundwater dams say we can store water underground rather than on the surface. So, say for example, in China, say under the scheme called Mother's Water Cellar, the project launched in August 2000 by China Women Development Foundation. Now, say many areas, drought prone areas, they are providing water through these schemes. So, this provides readily accessible potable water for about 1 million people in rural China by developing these so called groundwater dams. So, that way that kind of changes are possible. And then also we can go for percolation tanks, say. So, percolation tanks actually say we can use for temporary storage of water, and that also act as groundwater recharge to the aquifer systems. So, that way the water will be available. Say, so these percolation tanks have been used effectively in many parts of western India, like in Maharashtra, Gujarat and Rajasthan. So, this has been the source of water for 15 million farmers in semi-arid basaltic plateau in western India. So, that way as far as mitigation preparedness is concerned, we can go for groundwater dams, percolation tanks and many other schemes depending upon the geographical conditions and the area. So, these groundwater dams are concerned. So, actually this is a structural measure. So, you can see that say this is how a groundwater dam is constructed. So, this is the structure we are building. So, this is the ground surface and this is the riverbed level. So, we are constructing below the ground like this and these are the structures that intercept or obstruct natural flow of groundwater and store water underground. So, the basic principle is instead of storing the water in surface reservoirs, water is stored in underground. So, there is no possibility of contamination, and then we can reduce the evaporation problems and then there is no problem of submergence of land. So, this is one of the structural measures which has been found to be very effective. So, these groundwater dams can be like subsurface dams. So, this is a subsurface dam. So, this here we intercepts or obstruct the flow of an aquifer and then reduces the variations of levels of groundwater table upstream of the dam, and it is built entirely under the ground as shown here. And then also we can have sand storage dam, say like it is just this is the ground surface and this is the riverbed, then it can be just like this. So, this is constructed above the ground, then sand and soil particles are transported during periods of high flow and are deposited here and are allowed to deposit behind the dam. Water is stored in this soil deposit as shown in this figure, and so this is actually sand storage dam constructed layers to allow sand to be deposited and final material be washed downstream. So, this become a good storage as far as the water is concerned in that particular area, say for the drought season. So, that way we can have say various schemes, structural measures, of course, watershed various measures which we have discussed obviously will help, and then some measures like groundwater dams or percolation tanks. So, these are all some of the structural measures as far as the drought mitigation is concerned. And then some of the other say technology for drought reduction or drought mitigation includes like field agriculture technology, like straw or plastic film, mulch, then conservation tillage and rainwater harvesting, then water saving technology such as whole irrigation, and then the surge flow irrigation, micro irrigation, drip irrigation. So, here all what we are trying to do is we are going for effective water management, so that we are trying to use less water for agriculture purposes. So, that way this field agriculture technologies helps very much to deal with the drought, so that we can reduce the effects of droughts. Then water saving technology, say like drought resistant and water saving technologies, say we can even have the crops which can say resist the drought to certain extent and save the water. Then for preserving soil moisture and reducing crop transpiration, we can use certain chemicals and mix with the soil, and then that way we can save the water. And then water storage, cellar, seawater desalination, then wastewater treatment, or say water recycling and water reuse. So, all these say including the rainwater harvesting, say and storing in the water cellar, so these are some of the technologies which we can use say for drought reduction, and that way we can mitigate the drought. So, now say some of the other techniques or technologies for drought reduction include the development of drought plans or or reporter on drought impact. So, say this is say high end technologies like software based technologies. So, we can say based upon the various indices which we discussed in the last lecture, we can have drought monitoring index on the national and global basis, and then this can be effectively used, say depending upon the index we can come up with the reduction measures. So, say for example, in China, say they have implemented Beijing climate, say Beijing Climate Center has implemented China Meteorological Administration, say they have come up with several routine products for China and the globe are produced on a daily basis from real time station based and satellite derived data. So, they come up with the monitoring, then warning, and then say this Beijing Climate Center, say they come up with various measures as far as drought reduction is concerned, and this say they are giving not only for China, but on global basis also. So, that way the modern technologies also we can utilize effectively for drought reduction. So, now say we were discussing about the drought mitigation aspects, and we can see that say as far as drought is concerned, its consequences we have already discussed, but let us look what are the important sectors which will be affected by the drought, or the impact sectors where we have to look into the mitigation actions. So, when we look into mitigation actions, if we can classify the impact sectors, then accordingly we can go for the drought mitigation. So, we can classify into 11 impact sectors as far as the drought mitigation is concerned. Some of the important impact sectors are mentioned here in this slide. First aspect is water availability. So, we have to see how effectively we can utilize say the various schemes so that water availability can be improved for that particular area. Then the municipal water, say how we can effectively conserve or how we can effectively improve the system. Then water shortage or conservation activities. So as we already discussed, whether we can go for water conservation or water recycling or reuse. Then agricultural and industries are concerned, say how effectively we can use, say deal with the demand management. Then another important aspect is public information and education. So if the people are knowing how to reduce the water usage or how to deal with the droughts, so public information and education will help to reduce the effect of drought or drought mitigation. Then so the particular area is concerned, how to deal with the fish or wildlife preservation is concerned. So what kind of impacts will be there, and then corresponding what kind of mitigation action can be taken. Then health issues, say in the drought prone area, so there will be the water stress or the people may use the polluted water, all those issues will come. So health sector is concerned, say how we can go for the mitigation actions. And then commerce and tourism or economy. So if the particular area is drought prone or the drought is occurring for few years, then its tourism potential will be reduced, its economy will be shattered. So that way we have to see the impacts. Then wildfire protection, forestry and public lands. So we can see that in many of the drought prone areas, wildfire is a major problem. So how we can protect the vegetation from the fires, and how we can manage the forests and the public lands, and then how we can meet with the energy requirements for the people, and then how we can deal with the various social issues. So like that, say when we look into drought mitigations, so what kind of action can be taken with respect to these 11 impact sectors. So these are some of the important impact sectors where we have to see the drought mitigation plans. Then say as far as mitigative strategies or drought mitigation is concerned, say we can say classify or we can divide into 9 categories. So these categories are listed here. First one is assessment programs. So as I mentioned, we have to assess whether the drought is going to set in, and then what will be the effects. So that way assessment programs. And second one is legislation and public policy. So for the drought prone area, to how to deal with the droughts, what kind of measures. So the state or central governments can come up with the legislation, and then there can be public policy documents, so which can be effectively utilized. So say for example, Government of India has made a national disaster management action plans. Accordingly they have come the drought mitigation plans. So that way, that kind of plans which is available now as a document, so that will help to have say a public policy with respect to the drought situation. Then how we can say augment the water supply. Then public awareness and education programs. So this is very important. The public should know whether there is any possibility of drought and how to deal with these droughts. And then technical assistance, what kind of technical assistance can be given to the people with respect to, say for example, land management, water management, or crop management, like that. Then demand reduction and water conservation programs. So how to reduce the water demand. And then what kind of conservation programs, water conservation programs can be implemented. Then what kind of emergency response programs are possible. Then water use conflict resolutions, especially when the availability of water is reduced, there will be a number of conflicts between the communities. So how to deal with these kinds of conflicts, so water use conflicts. And then drought contingency plans, how to come up with contingency plans which we have to deal. So now as far as legislation and public policy is concerned, so the concerned government can come up with specific actions plans, like we can prepare position papers for legislator or public policy issues. Then we can examine statutes governing water rights for possible modification during water shortages. Then we can pass legislation to protect in-stream flows. Then we can pass legislation providing guaranteed low interest loans to the farmers. Then we can go for impose limits on urban development. So, like this various legislative measures or public policies are possible as far as the drought impacts, or the various governments can come up with various measures. So, now let us look into what are the important challenges when we deal with the drought monitoring is concerned. So, here some of the important aspects as far as the challenges of drought monitoring is concerned, here I have listed like meteorological and hydrological aspects. So, as we have seen, the drought is concerned, it can be meteorological drought or hydrological drought mainly. So, with respect to data networks, say the data availability will be inadequate. So, we have to have more stations, or the density of stations can be improved, so that we get better data, and then we can go for better warning systems or better predictions. Then data quality is also a problem because of missing data or an inadequate length of record. So, this is same we have to continuously check the data quality, whether it is good data or whether there is any missing data, like that. Then high cost of data limits their application in drought. So, the data should be available cheaply, so that the various agencies can come with various monitoring schemes. Then say monitoring, or for drought monitoring, drought preparedness, mitigations and responses. Then information delivered through early warning systems is often too technical and detailed, so that limits its use by decision makers. So, we have to come up with the plans which are simple and which are quite informative, and then which can be easily implemented in the field. Then we can look into various forecasts. Forecasts say are often unreliable on the seasonal time scales and lack specificity, then reducing their usefulness for agriculture and other sectors. Then, as we discussed the possibility of drought indices, we can have appropriate drought indices. So, that this so if the drought indices are not made appropriately, then that may be inadequate for detecting the early onset and end of drought. So, that way we have to see that for particular area, say particular types of say suitable drought indices we have to come up, and maybe not only one index, but maybe more indices may help to come up with say appropriate say drought monitoring systems. So, that way we have to plan, or we have to say deal with the drought monitoring. So, these are some of the challenges as far as the drought monitoring is concerned, like meteorological, hydrological data availability, then high cost of data, then say the information passage, then forecasts, and then say the appropriate drought index, so which we have to deal. So, that way so these are some of the challenges as far as the drought monitoring is concerned. Then say drought monitoring system, say when we deal with drought warning and monitoring, so we have to say integrate this drought monitoring systems, say so that say with respect to climate, water and soil parameters and socio-economic indicators. So, whatever the say drought index we are using, or the drought monitoring schemes or systems we are using, so we may have to integrate with respect to the climate predictions, or the water availability, or soil parameters, or socio-economical indicators. So, for fully characterizing the drought magnitude, spatial extent and potential impact, so we may have to integrate with respect to various systems. And then we have to go for impact assessment methodologies. So, generally say in the most of the drought monitoring, a critical part of drought monitoring is say and early warning systems Say we have to standardize it, or these things may not be widely available. So, we have to make the monitoring and early warning system widely available, and we should have the standardized systems so that the people can effectively get the warnings, or we can monitor the drought appropriately. And then hindering impact estimates and the creation of regionally appropriate mitigation and response programs we can generate as far as the drought impact assessment or the drought mitigation is concerned. So, these are some of the other challenges as far as the drought monitoring and then impact assessment methodologies are concerned. So, now within this context, let us look to the when we deal with the drought management, say what are the major issues we may have to deal as far as the mitigation strategies are concerned. So, some of the important points I have listed here. So, like say it is always, as we have already seen, it is always better to have a appropriate drought monitoring and warning systems. So, the effectiveness of the warning systems or monitoring depends upon various input data like hydrological or meteorological or other parameters. So, that way this is one of the important aspects as far as the mitigation strategy is concerned. And then judicious use of surface and groundwater. So, for a particular area, especially drought prone area, whatever available water, say surface or groundwater, we have to see that. So, this available water is judiciously used, so that say we can meet the demand in such a way that the drought severity can be reduced. And in a drought prone area, so we can go for artificial say rainfall, like through cloud seeding we can induce more clouds to rain, so that we can have more precipitation. Then say instead of flooding and other kinds of irrigation systems, we can go for micro irrigation systems. Then we can say after the harvesting of that particular area, say soil management is concerned, we can go for post harvest management, so that soil can maintain the moisture. Then the nutritional aspects of food security, say as far as the people or the communities are concerned, we have to see the nutritional aspects are maintained as far as their food security is concerned. Then like water conservation, storage structures, management. So, like the structural measures what we can adopt as far as the mitigation strategy is concerned. And then say as we have seen afforestation, so the deforestation is a major issue, say related to the drought. So, how we can improve the forest cover, so that is another management issue. Then say the drought prone areas, most of the farmers are affected due to the crop loss due to the drought onset of the drought. So, whether the government or whether various insurance companies can provide appropriate crop insurance. And then how we can build the capacity of the communities of the people, so that capacity building and community participation can be effectively utilized as far as the drought management is concerned. And then relief responses, say relief and responses. So, once the drought is set in, so say how we can give relief to the people through either monetary terms or food, or the various measures how we can implement as far as the drought prone area is concerned. So, how the system is responding to the systems. So, this way we can see that public distribution system can be maintained in those areas, so that people get sufficient food and other supplies. So, that way the concerned state or central or district administration, they can have appropriate guidelines. So, that will be very useful to deal with appropriate for appropriate drought management plans. So, in a nutshell, we have to develop appropriate drought management plans or guidelines by considering the various issues, various aspects as far as the drought mitigation is concerned. So, before closing today's lecture, let us have a brief discussion about a case study. So, this is about the drought analysis in Rajasthan. So, the case study data are taken from the technical report by M.S. Rathore entitled State Level Analysis of Drought Policies and Impacts in Rajasthan, IWMA 2005, working paper 93. So, Rajasthan is one of the largest states of India, and then the area is about 3,42,000 square kilometer, about 10% of the total area of India, and population is about 56.5 million, or about 5% of the total population of India. But as far as water is concerned, it is an arid and semi-arid region. Only 1% of the India's water resources is available in Rajasthan state, and then this is an economically backward state. So, as far as climate of this state is concerned, it is mainly arid to subhumid area, and the average rainfall is about 574 millimeter, and this also drastically varies from one location to another location. So, in western Rajasthan it is less than 100 mm, and other areas slightly more. So, that way the rainfall is distributed, the average rainfall. Then Rajasthan, about 50 drought years are identified in the last century. And a detailed further analysis showed that in 9 out of 112 years were none of the districts in the state affected by droughts. So, only 9 years out of the 112 years say there was no drought, but all the other years in one or another area there were droughts. So, that way we can say that every year some parts of Rajasthan is affected by drought, and state considers drought as a transient phenomenon, even though most of the areas are drought prone, but the state administration is considering still the drought as a transient phenomenon, but that is not the case. This analysis shows that all the years, most of the years, some or other area is drought prone. So, that way the state government presently has only short term plans or relief measures, but that is not the solution. We have to look for long term plans and what are the causes and how the system can be improved. So, according to this the reference paper by Rathore, the drought index they have calculated by using this formula P minus x by SD, where P is the annual precipitation, x is the long term mean, and SD is the standard deviation. So, accordingly this drought index they have derived and classified into 4. When DI is less than or equal to minus 0.1, then they call it as light drought, and when drought index is less than or equal to minus 0.2, they call it as moderate drought, and when it is DI is less than or equal to minus 0.5, severe drought, and when DI is less than or equal to minus 0.8, very severe drought. So, that way they have defined the drought situation in Rajasthan by analyzing 100 years of data for the last century. So, that way they identified that 48 out of 102 years were drought years in Rajasthan, and chance of occurrence of meteorical drought in the state is about 47%. But of course, as we discussed, due to the geographical and various other parameters, so the pattern is varying from one location to another location. So, that way the Rajasthan is vulnerable to drought. Both low income and middle income households are most vulnerable, and the indicators are like a forced migration, borrowings from the various agencies, food shortage, change of occupation, forced unemployment, then falling health conditions, etc. So, these are some of the vulnerability analysis done by the presented in this paper by Mr. Rathore. So, we say the frequency and intensity of drought in districts of various districts have been done for 1901 to 2002. Say on a region basis, the number of years with the drought of different intensities, like western region very severe was about 12 years, severe was 12, and moderate was 11, and light was 11. So, that way the percentage of all drought years in the period is about 45. Northeastern region about 12 very severe, severe is 8 and moderate is 11, light drought 16, so 46%. And southern region about 10 very severe and years, so severe years 12, moderate 9, light 12, and so that way 42.1. So that way all Rajasthan say it was identified that say for this period of analysis 10 years were very severe, and then severe years about 10, and then moderate 15 and light 13. So that way 47% they have analyzed. So this drought perceptions and implications as far as this Rajasthan is concerned, it is perceived as creeping phenomena, onset and end difficult to identify, viewed as transient phenomena, and direct impacts like withering of crops, dry watering points, reduced forage for livestock, etc. So these are all obvious in the Rajasthan area. And then say drought impacts are concerned, annual statistics of drought impacts in Rajasthan, it has been presented here. Say for some of the years you can see that district affected, say the percentage wise, human affected percentage wise, then livestock population affected percentage wise, flood grain production index. So that way we can see that this is phenomena is same, say it is varying with respect to years, varying with respect to space. Then the impact of drought in Rajasthan is concerned, say for example year wise 88, 1988, 1998, 99, 2000 like that. So the with respect to rainfall deficiency, then crop damage, population affected. So all these are listed here as given by in this paper. So we can see the impacts of droughts. So say for example in 2002 about 40,490 villages were affected due to the droughts in Rajasthan. As far as the drought management is concerned, say the state government has say instituted say drought management plans, task force and committees. Drought monitoring and early warnings say have been now installed with the help of Indian Meteorology Department, Weather Watch Group, based on rainfall data, water levels in reservoirs and crop prospects. Then drought mitigation programs like rural development programs, infrastructure programs, watershed development schemes like National Watershed Development Program, then integrated watershed development program like that. Then drought prone area development program, then desert development program, then employment generation program, rural poverty alleviation program. So like that a number of schemes have been developed by the state governments with the assistance of central government. So they, of course these schemes are found to be very effective in many areas, but still say now as these are all some of the short term measures we can say, but the state is not thinking in terms of long term measures which are very essential for this kinds of, since the drought is recurring and say about 47% possibility is there in any of the area of Rajasthan as far as drought is concerned. So that way they have to go for long term measures. So to conclude this case study, say the main issues, say we have to see the policy formulation and action like understanding the nature of drought, then modifying perception response to drought, then changing approach, relief to mitigation of drought, then identification of vulnerable areas and population, then impact of drought is both direct and indirect on most of the economic and social parameters as we have already seen, and then water availability is a key issue in many of the areas. Then drought monitoring and management, we should have effective management plans. Then rural development and poverty alleviation programs are very essential, which on say we have to not only see in short term basis but long term basis. Then efficient management of drought depends on the organizational structure and policies of the state. So that way we were discussing about the drought mitigation and short term plans and long term plans and what are the strategies which are possible as far as the drought mitigation is concerned. So some of the important references used for today's lecture are listed here. Then few questions before closing the lecture. So tutorial questions: critically study the prevention, preparedness and mitigation for drought management as suggested by National Disaster Management Guidelines. These details are available in this website. Study the necessity of capacity development, relief and responses for drought management. So you can do this based upon this report. Then a few self evaluation assignment questions: illustrate components of drought mitigation plans, describe necessity of drought monitoring and early warning, differentiate between structural and non-structural mitigation measures, illustrate groundwater dams and its role in drought mitigation, what are the classification of mitigation actions according to impact sectors, what are the challenges of drought monitoring, Then few assignment questions: what are the important drought mitigation strategies, compare various monitoring and early warning systems used in drought different countries, discuss drought mitigation and protection, discuss technology for drought reductions, what are the categories of mitigation strategies, comment on drought management and mitigation measures. So, all these questions you can say answer by going through this today's lecture, and then say going through various references given. So, in this module, module number 9, we are discussing about the drought management. So, we have seen the problems of droughts, drought consequences, and then we have seen how to analyze the droughts by using various indices, and today's lecture we are discussing about drought mitigations, strategies and various plans. So, with this module on drought management is over. So, we will go to the next module in the next lecture. Thank you.